Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. The summer break is almost over and official business at the European institutions is picking up again, slowly. One of the stories that kept EU officials busy throughout the summer was Hungary's anti-immigration government's decision to ease the country's immigration scheme. Yes, you heard that right. That immigration scheme allows foreign workers to stay in Hungary for at least 2 years and can pave the way towards permanent residency. Budapest has now relaxed this rule to include nationals from Russia and Belarus. This week, and not for the first time, Nordic and Baltic countries expressed concern that such a policy could be a serious security risk for the entire EU. Here's the foreign minister of Latvia.
There was never Schengen free for Russian diplomats with hostile intention, and there was never Schengen free for possible security breaches by certain countries. So this is why we take it very seriously as a security risk.
The worry, of course, is that Russian spies and saboteurs could infiltrate the EU and commit all sorts of crimes. Budapest dismissed such concerns, saying that the Hungarian scheme was in accordance with the relevant EU framework. All this unfolds against the backdrop of the ongoing war in Ukraine. This week, Russia continued its missile and drone strikes, targeting especially energy facilities. Moscow's latest attacks are perceived as an effort to regain control of the conflict, following Ukraine's recent territorial gains in Russia's Kursk region. The Ukrainian incursion started on August the 6th and has been surprisingly sustained. A Swedish TV crew had access to Ukrainian-held Russian territory and produced a rare interview with Ukrainian soldiers. Here's what they had to say.
Бої йдуть нон-стоп по всій території. На майбутнє не знаю. Можливо, росіяни якось зберуться.
Все залежить від того, підтягнуть вони якісь резерви сюди, чи не підтягнуть. І взагалі, що це будуть за резерви. Тобто, якщо це будуть строковики, то це, я думаю, не дуже ускладнить.
Let's bring in a man now who knows a thing or two about war tactics, retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, who joins us from Frankfurt. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So, this Ukrainian operation in Russia is very likely not the beginning of a full-scale invasion. How would you characterize it? Does it make any sense from a military point of view?
This counteroffensive that Ukraine has launched in the Kursk direction is, I think, a brilliant stroke that is changing the momentum of the conflict. It's also changing the narrative about the inevitable Russian victory. It's too early to tell how far they plan to go or how long they plan to stay, or if it's having an effect on Russian operations in the east yet. But I don't think that this is a standalone operation. It's part of a larger multi-domain effort by the Ukrainians.
And after more than 3 weeks, we haven't really seen a Russian response. Why do you think that is? Are they lacking resources? Are they lacking a plan? What's going on here?
Great question. I think it's attributable to a couple of things. First of all, on the Russian side, you've got rivalry and hatred between the general staff and the FSB and the border forces, which are under control of the FSB. I mean, these guys hate each other. And so there's never has been much cooperation between them. We saw that during the Prigozhin mutiny. But also Putin, of course, this is bad for him to have to deal with this. And I think he's trying to ignore the Kursk operation, turns it over to FSB. You guys treat it like a terrorist operation or counter-terrorist operation. So I think he's trying to avoid having to address what is a really significant problem.
Is Russia's military weaker than we all think?
I would say we have continued to overestimate Russian capabilities. The problem is because they don't care how many soldiers are killed. I mean, that's not a factor for them to consider. They still have a lot of people that they can feed into this sort of meat grinder. And they still have enormous quantities of rockets and glide bombs and missiles that, because of U.S. And other European government policies, the Ukrainians are not able to strike the origin of these attacks. And so Russia still has a lot of fight left in it.
And finally, to what extent does the Ukrainian operation in Russia help the Ukrainians at the front lines in their own territory?
I think this does a couple of things. First of all, psychologically, it is a huge morale boost. I mean, when you've been sitting in the defense getting bombed day after day after day, most soldiers, they really want to hit back somehow. If this draws away Russian forces that are currently operating in the east, that should relieve some of the pressure on Ukrainian forces. I just can't tell yet how much.
All right, General Ben Hodges, former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you for the privilege of being on your program.
And now let's go from one ongoing war in Europe to one that ended a long time ago, at least for the people of Paris. This week, the French capital marked the 80th anniversary of its liberation by Allied forces from Nazi occupation 9 months before the end of World War II. On that day in August in 1944, 1,532 days of nightmare came to an end, as French President Emmanuel Macron said at the ceremony. More than 1,400 Parisians lost their lives in street battles during the summer of 1944, until Allied soldiers, together with French fighting forces, raced to the relief of the city. The parade, led by General de Gaulle, the leader of the Free French, has become an indelible part of France's collective memory. De Gaulle's successor, Macron, then turned back his focus to the present and praised the Olympic summer of flame and joy, an event, Macron said, that will still be remembered 80 years from now. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobel. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent week.